record button.
Okay.
Oh, there's the
Oh, is it Monday yet? Okay. We're recording. All right. So happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody had a good New Year there. Just so you know, our meeting times, we're just going to do once a quarter. We're doing our January meeting now. It's supposed to be the 22nd, but I got the announcement out a little late, so I pushed it back to the 29th. Our next meeting will be April the 22nd. Then July 22nd, then October 14th, okay? All right, so that's kind of our goal. That's what we're shooting for. I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but that's what we're shooting for. The vision of the president, just to kind of reiterate that, what we're going for is to modernize the NAR Education Department. And when I say to modernize the NAR Education Department, when I talked to John about this, it was basically to get more face-to-face virtual trainings out there so that teachers and students are involved in what's going on in the education department. Sounds good? So that's kind of what we are focusing on. So based on his vision, I put together some outlines about what I wanted to do to move us to get to where he was thinking about having us. And that is going to be the teacher trainings. It'll be the junior mentor programs with the opportunity for NAR Ed recommendations at graduation time, school districts and NAR Rocket Club partnerships, newsletter assistance, and NAR Ed website update, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll go into those a little bit deeper right now, okay? So let's talk about the teacher training. So for the teacher trainings, I was putting out advertisements for in the NAR education newsletter as well as the NAR newsletter, and just asking people, hey, if you have a cool way that you've been teaching students rocketry over the last few years, let me know. If you want to teach teachers what you've been teaching students so that they can also teach their students, let me know if you want to be a teacher. And so I did have some folks to come back in and say, hey, I've got a program that I've been teaching. I think is really cool, and I can teach teachers this program. So my goal is not to have me do all of the training or any one person do all of the training, but to get other people that are in NAR to come together, because there's so many people in NAR. Our organization is 9,000 plus. And so there are so many people out there, Rocketeers out there doing awesome, awesome things with their rocketry. And I want them to have an opportunity, a platform to come in and say, this is what I'm doing. Let me teach it to a teacher so that you can take it to your classroom. So that's my goal with the teacher trainings. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that sound like a good idea? Anything I need to add to that?
Yeah, I think that sounds a good idea. Matter of fact, it's even a better idea because if you can get a bunch of teachers talking about it, you can get some cross-pollination going on. Yes. I mean, you've got, you have your ideas of how to do it. Matter of fact, I was wondering, would it be possible if these presentations, they could be recorded and then maybe even a YouTube channel, NAR Ed, with some events. So this way, I'm assuming that we're trying to make it so that it's going to be free for teachers or whatnot. And that if something's going on, the resources out there, so we can always direct people to presentations that are done, and, they can go out sort of in the ecosystem to be able to do that. And maybe we can also do things like recognize schools, because certainly schools like to know that, hey, I presented at, the first NAR Ed conference and our school was represented, hooray, get a press release out there or kind of a thing, so that, it further supports. If there's good news, maybe they'll get more funding or resources or things like that. So, do it as something that makes makes their district feel good, not only their school.
I like that. That's a
Absolutely.
good idea. Roy, you wanted to jump in there?
No, I support that. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think that's a great idea as well. Kind of sounds like a library of videos that, as we keep on going, as we do the live events, we make sure that we record them and then put them on YouTube, and they can always be looked at as we go, as we keep on going. I like that. That's a good idea. There are YouTube videos, or there are videos currently on our NAR Ed page, and those videos just need to be updated a little bit. So there are videos that are on there, and we can take these videos and add to those videos, updated videos, more information, just to let teachers know exactly what's going on. So I do like that idea. I have that written down. Let me see. I'm going to have, I think there were three or four other teachers that signed up. And I'm going to have a meeting on Thursday, February 1st at 6 o'clock with those instructors that signed up to be teachers in NAR Ed. And so what I'll let them know is, what do we expect? What are we looking for as far as these virtual presentations are concerned? I'll let them know that on the call on February 1st, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. The first virtual training starts on February the 8th. So what we're doing is we're taking NART CERT, and instead of having it be a self-paced course, we're going to do it virtually, live, face-to-face, so that teachers that are a little bit scared, they've never done rocketry before, or maybe only done a little bit, they can have somebody to talk to, somebody to ask questions to, give some tips about how do you set this up in your class? What does this look like as a setup in your class? And we're going to start that virtual session on February the 8th, and it will end at the end of March. It'll be an 8-week long course or professional development that we're doing. And we'll have the solar system ambassador, the NASA solar system ambassador, to speak. Dr. C is going to speak. Shawnette Leach is going to speak. And so we'll have teachers coming in, giving their experience about teaching rocketry in the classroom. Dr. C is going to talk about Open Rocket. Our NASA solar system ambassador is going to give us an update about what's going on with NASA. Teachers always like to know what's going on with NASA, because they don't always get an opportunity to just go and figure out what's going on with NASA, right? So that's always important to see that, I believe. So I've added that into the NART CERT virtual training that will start on February the 8th. We have done some advertising, like I said, in the NAR newsletter and the NAR Ed newsletter for both teachers to come and help teach, and also teachers to participate. And right now, we are up to 5 participants for our first national session. So we were at 3 earlier today. My goal was 10. So, we're getting there. And I believe that as this word gets out, more teachers will come. They will really appreciate what's going on, and it'll be great. All right. We've added a timeline for teachers to complete NART CERT in hopes of getting them to actually get NART CERT completed. So instead of just, when teachers come and they register, instead of just saying, you're registered, we give them a 3-month window. We say, you're registered, but your registration is going to expire at this time. And then what we've been doing is we've been going in and saying, hey, how are you doing? Do you need help with this? Do you have any questions? And what we've been finding is that the more we keep in contact with these people who have registered, teachers who have registered, it gets them a little bit warmer, and they say, you know what, I really have had a question. One teacher told me, he said, I don't know where to start. And so I said, okay, well, start at building a rocket. Okay, I've built a rocket. All right, great. Start it, next step, launch that rocket. I've launched it. And then the next step is, let's write a lesson plan. So just kind of taking them step by step has been a really great thing. And that's one reason also why I believe that the virtual sessions will get more teachers kind of out of that scared place, that fearful place of I'm going to blow something up and hurt my students, to a more confident place of let's build rockets, let's launch rockets, let's really get to digging deep in the science and understanding what's going on here. Okay, so any questions so far?
No, I'm
I
fine.
do. I have a, sorry, Dr. C.
What you
No,
got?
Robin, I was gonna say, are we, for the national certification, are we kind of melding our Richland one and local certification, like classes with that, or we're gonna do
Yeah.
separate?
Because so I started out with the virtual NART cert in South Carolina, and now I've gotten 34 teachers gone through just kind of locally in South Carolina. Well, I did have another one scheduled for in Richland School District 1, where Richland School District 1 was paying for teachers to have a rocket pack, which
Right.
had a rocket in it and all this good stuff. And they would get this pack and they would do the rockets and everything. Well, we don't have the pack that we're giving to national teachers, not yet, because we don't have a sponsor for this yet, but I'm working on that. So
Yeah, actually, I had a little thought on that.
talk to me.
Going back to when I went to the Spaceport America Cup, there was a number of aerospace companies, like, SpaceX was there and Blue Origin, the ones but then there were some that maybe are not quite as obvious, like Sierra Space. They're doing a Dream Chaser, and I just recently saw they did a video on they're making inflatable modules for a space station, so that they can basically package them up really small, then get out there and expand them, take up significantly less weight or whatnot. But I thought, what if we approached the companies that showed up at Spaceport America Cup also often show up at the art competition, and they get listed as far as sponsors are concerned. Maybe if we had like a write-up of the things that we're doing, that we're trying to promote, teachers to getting certification, that your district had provided money to make these packages, maybe they could be included as part of, aerospace education. These are companies that you can consider if you wish to be part of aerospace. Don't think just NASA, think there's at least 10 of them out there, and maybe they could sponsor whatever it takes to sponsor a teacher, if it's,
Right.
$50 or $75. When we do this, can we collect information about you that we can pass on to, middle and high school students to possibly get them interested in your company? And by the way, could you support teachers, by providing monetary support for these kits? And the way we do it is by producing these, NAR T-cert, virtual NAR T-certs in there to be able to do it. So, I think it would be a good letter to put out there.
That's awesome. Are you volunteering to write that letter?
Well, I mean, I could put something together, bounce it, and I'll give you a list of the companies that I had, because I put them in a press release already when I went out there with you guys.
Yes.
So it's already listed. Now it would be a matter of if I can get a nice description from you about the NAR Ed Committee and what we're trying to do and how it's been supported within a district, that we're growing it, but we need to go out of a district to be able to support, the United States. Well, could you help us? Right.
Or even internationally.
Right.
I got you. Yes, absolutely. That sounds good. I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was that I was going to say. That sounds like a good idea, Dr. C. I like that idea. I know what I was going to say. I So the spaceport sponsors, Ethan was talking about sponsors. I believe you were talking about sponsors the last time we spoke as well. When we did our first call, we were talking about sponsors, and then also on virtual NARCon, there was the manufacturers that came on. So I was going to get a list of those manufacturers and also reach out to them as well, because I mean, they're in the business of making rockets. So
Right.
if they will sponsor a teacher, the teacher will then have the school district to purchase all of these kits for the students. So I figured that they wouldn't mind sponsoring a teacher, and then in turn, the teacher who's teaching, 30, 40, 50 minutes rocketry will purchase these rockets from this company. So we'll look at those companies again, Spaceport, and then ARC, and also the NARCon.
Yeah.
And
Because
we'll get together and write a letter.
I was actually thinking of listing these companies as one of my aerospace assignments, listing the companies and having students, different students take them and provide background and stuff. But so I've already kind of had their list in my mind already as kind of an assignment to broaden their understanding as far as the kind of resources that are out there. I mean, everybody wants to look at NASA, because NASA is the pivotal point. But now that there are, private companies, and of course, private companies, Lockheed Martin and whatnot, have been producing aerospace things, and Boeing and whatnot. So understanding where aerospace plugs into many of the companies that they know, and finding out about companies that they don't.
Right, absolutely. I think that's a good idea. So we'll work together, Dr. C, and get our letter kind of, even if it's just kind of a generic letter where we switch out the company name and send it off. I think that'll be a good idea. I like that. And Shawnette, to answer your question, yes, I will be merging Richland ones, because there will be no need even to just continue offering it just locally anymore when it's being offered nationally. I think that's kind of, not that I don't mind doing the work, but we don't want to do double the work that,
Well, I was just saying, because now, I mean, I can solicit, well, heck, we don't have any teachers, but we're so short. But, I'm down to one other eighth grade teacher, but, and, science teacher. So, I can just go ahead and solicit a few people in my school and see if they're, they're interested in that. Now that the standards have been totally jumbled, it's not just eighth grade now that, dealing with space science stuff. So
right. And also Project Lead the Way is still on my list. Ethan, you were talking about Project Lead the Way the last time. Yep. So Project Lead the Way is still on my list. I'm going to reach out to them because they do rocketry. Then also the science teachers that are in the district and in districts all around. So that's who we're looking at there. Okay.
And we need a STEM teacher, by the way. We don't have one. So anyone looking?
You say you need a STEM teacher?
We don't have a STEM teacher. We haven't had one in a year and a half. So anyone, I'm trying to yeah. So if you know
anybody that can teach them. All right, here we go. So Ethan, we're still working on our junior mentor programs, right? We're still,
yeah, I can give a little bit of an update on that. So as far as that, did a little bit of research and figured some stuff out. So trying to figure out like what kind of positions and stuff that I thought would work for that. And that's what I was during my research, I came across this thing on the NAR website, NAR Safety Officer Training Program.
Right, I've seen that before.
Any of you have seen that before?
Yep.
So yeah, I had never seen that before, but I saw that on the NAR website, and I thought that was kind of interesting and possibly something similar to what we'd end up doing.
So Ethan, do you think that the NAR safety officer training is something that we can put together a virtual presentation on for maybe young students 14 to 17-year-old, 14 to 17?
Yeah, I think it possibly can be like maybe adapted a little bit.
Okay.
I think we could do an online presentation, but there's a part in here
Mm-hmm.
where it asks for like range safety officer, so like that you have to do so specific safety check-in officer task descriptions, like 15 high power check-ins required. Like obviously that's a lot of check-ins to do of high power rockets that, you know, somebody in high school probably wouldn't be doing. But I thought that was kind of interesting in that we could somehow adapt that to, like, you have to do a certain amount of check-ins
Right.
to get it, you know, signed off.
Okay.
But I think that just looking at it, I think it can definitely be somehow adapted
Cool.
and possibly expanded on in certain aspects.
Okay. I like that. Even if it is just something, Ethan, where we take it and it's just like a 1 hour virtual presentation to explain what you have to do to get this training done, you know, I think that will work. Just so that we're getting it out there and we're saying, hey, come to this session. Let us explain to you what you can do inside of NAR between the ages of 14 to 17. You know what I'm saying? So just so we can get more young people in and involved in their local clubs. So I think that's a great place to start.
My plan going forward is to try and draft kind of an outline document of
Okay.
kind of like exactly like what things would be required, because I pulled some, you know, research together already, like
Okay.
of what kind of stuff they should look for, and then I'll try and figure that out. And I'll I already asked one person, but I'll try and kind of keep working on that in the next few months before the next meeting.
I like it. Sounds good. Our next meeting is April 22nd, okay?
Yep.
Sounds good. Perfect. So moving forward, school districts and NAR Rocket Club partnerships. Currently, my school district, Richland 1, has a partnership with our local club, Rocketry of South Carolina. And the partnership basically states that the club will provide people and knowledgeable Rocketeers who can come to classrooms and maybe help build rockets, do rocket presentations, things like that. And the school district will provide the students and the materials to be able to build rockets and launch them. Oh, and the club will provide a place to launch if we're doing rockets that may be middle or high power rockets. So that's a very simple partnership that we have. And maybe what we'll look at is getting kind of an outline so that teachers who get involved with NAR Ed, if they have to go to their admin and say, I have a rocket club that I'm a member of, how can I get them linked up with the school district? They have an outline that they can take to their admin and say, here's an outline. All we need to do is put in our school district's name, get the president of the rocket club to sign it, and then we kind of go from there. Does that sound like a good idea? Or does it sound like it would be fairly easy to do? I know nothing is ever terribly easy, but you know, especially when it comes to legal
Right.
documents between school districts and clubs. But you know, anything to make a teacher's life a little simpler and easier. That's where I'm going with this.
And I would say, I know that's how I think I originally got my kits and all that, but so like I'm on the Title I committee, and I said, hey, you know, want to make sure, and this is put into the budget, and yeah, so it, you know, it has to of course go through several approvals and all that kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
you know, if teachers are aware, if you're in a Title I district, you know, you can meet up and, I mean, you can meet with them or one of the representatives and then, you know, outline that you would like to have. Court,
Right.
I'm in a meeting. Oh, sorry.
Right.
Court, I'm in a meeting. That, sorry. You would like
That's
to,
okay.
you know, you can meet with the team, you know, present that aspect of it as well
Mhm.
as, you know, so, because they didn't have a problem with it at all, because it's exactly kind of what Title I's geared, one of the things it's geared for is to do that. So,
That
you know, you
sounds
can
good.
justify that expense without a problem.
That would be one of the things, like one of the forms that we put on the NAR Ed site. So when teachers go to the NAR Ed page, they can say, oh, here's a blank form. All I have to do is print it out and I can get it started. And the district can add in or take out whatever, you know, that type of thing. So that's what I was thinking as far as that's concerned. Just keeping it short and sweet and simple, you know?
Maybe we could even have a list of clubs that have kind of acknowledged this participation.
That is a
So,
good idea.
so basically we could approach the clubs and say, we're looking to do this. Can we put your contact information? Would you be willing, you know, that if a teacher or district was to approach you, would you be willing to engage? And then of course you have your template letter as well and say, this is what we're looking for, you know, would you have anybody? So this way, when you direct them to the website, it's not only can you do it, but you can find your state and you can say, okay, these people are willing to actually do it. They know, you know, I'm not going to, you know, contact them and say, you know, we need some help. It's like, they've already been contacted. They've already said kind of, yes,
The ice
we
has been
want to do
broken.
this. Right.
Yeah, I got you. That's a good idea. And all the clubs are listed on NAR's website. So that's not a problem to be able to do that, to reach out and say, hey, this is what we're doing as far as the education department is concerned. Would you be willing to partner with a local school district? And I can imagine that too many clubs will say, no, we're just simply not interested in that.
Right.
You know, we don't like kids. So, and if they don't, I hope they just go ahead and say that, because that would be good to know. I think though most clubs, you know, and I found that NAR is an organization that has really embraced kids and, you know, of all ages, little kids, big kids. Just I have really, really enjoyed NAR, and I've been with NAR now for 8 or 9 years. So not long, but just long enough to find out that I really love this organization. So I think that clubs will be very happy to jump in and do what they can to even make sure that their club will continue to grow. Because if you get young people coming in, they're going through the safety officer training, they are understanding what goes on in the club. When it gets time for some people the president to leave, they've got a new crop of people here to say, hey, I don't mind handing the club over to you because I know that you know what you're doing, you know, and you're going to run it safely and like it's supposed to be done. So, next bullet on the agenda is the newsletter assistant and NAR Ed website update. And so, Roy, we have been, Roy does our newsletter, and he does the NAR Education newsletter and has been doing it for a long, long time and is super at it. And he wants somebody to come along and be an assistant so that he can teach all of his knowledge to and wisdom, and so that they can come along and help him and then maybe even take it over one day. Did I get that correct, Roy?
Oh, yeah, exactly. In fact, that's the end state. Is what I'm looking for is a smooth transition to the next generation of NAR Ed newsletter editor.
Right.
So it, you know, once someone is identified, somebody volunteers, somebody's interested, then you know, I can help them set up the next issue of the newsletter, and you know, the transition could be relatively quick, or on the other hand, if they're unsure about the commitment or
Mhm.
what's at stake, that's fine too. We can walk them through that for as long as reasonably, as long as they want to. I mean, I don't want it to go a whole year, but
Yeah.
whatever, whatever works for them. Again, a smooth transition to somebody who's enthusiastic and willing to invest the time.
Right.
I've got it set up to where it's fairly smooth, but at the same time, it's not quite a blank canvas. It's not blank at all, but it's a
Mhm.
canvas, and they
Right.
can take that and create what they want. Something that I shouldn't say what they want, what makes sense for the organization and what, because it evolved from when I first started to what it is now. It's gone through a number of iterations, all of which were a consequence of feedback that I received along the way.
Yeah.
And I still get feedback. So, it's in some respects it's static, but in other respects it's constantly changing. It's there to be changed, but you have to have a baseline, and
Right.
and that's essentially what we have right now.
That's awesome. I didn't really realize how big the newsletters were in NAR until on virtual NARCon this past weekend. There was I forget what his name is, but he was doing a presentation on newsletters
Yeah.
within the clubs, and he showed how those newsletters had created such a historical representation of the club, and it was
Yep.
really cool. I thought it was really
Yeah.
cool. So
And in
I
fact,
appreciate what you're doing, Roy.
yeah, what you've just suggested hits the specific nerve of why, in many cases, newsletters began as a history of any particular section and what they were doing at any given time.
Right.
And my good friend Buzz Naw has got, when they have their section competition, they're one of the sections that has consistently ranked high and been a winner at the national level.
I want to say it was Buzz that did the presentation.
Yeah.
It was.
that would make perfect sense. He's
It
a
was. Yeah.
he's a grand fellow. I've had the opportunity to make some contributions to their newsletter. That's why, and I get their newsletter.
Yeah.
That's why I'm familiar with him and what they do.
Yeah. Right.
Uh,
Yeah, he did a great presentation.
yeah, and that but what they do on a local or even state level is what we're doing on a national level, and in fact an international level. Our educators newsletter literally goes across the globe. When I was still teaching at the War College and I would travel into various countries, I would take the opportunity to work with their in most cases it was military officers, but not always, civilian instructors at those institutions, senior level institutions, and do the things that you're talking about, promoting rocketry, and in many cases they don't have an industry to begin with, but they can if they want to, and hoping at some time that they would be able to compete and internationally for TARC. Honestly, that was my going in point, was suggesting to them, that you've got this international competition. Your country can be represented here eventually.
Right.
Anyway, I'm waxing.
And you were using the newsletter to help them understand that.
That's right. And so our newsletter is truly international. It's a global newsletter.
Right. Well, NAR is international. I'm just waiting on it to be INAR.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised how much the UK and some of the others enjoy our newsletter when it comes to TARC. They'll key off of that.
Right.
So it's a big connection. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. All right. So that's our update with the newsletter. We are trying to find an assistant there. And then I'm also writing some updates for the actual NAR Ed website, our page on the NAR website. So to give in all of the updates that we're doing for NAR Cert and then some of the other trainings that are going to be coming online. So I will be getting with Todd about that shortly to kind of get our education page updated so that we can have everything in there. Okay. So we'll be working on that. Then we're going to the next page here. So our goals for February, March, and April. And the reason I say February, March, and April is because April is when our next meeting is. And so we'll just have some goals about what we want to do, what we want to be whenever we have our next meeting. So our first one is from NAR Ed educator to NAR Ed ambassador. So I have an idea. My idea is this, is to the educators that are coming in, volunteering their time to come in and teach these virtual sessions for 1 hour. And I'm thinking that I only want these virtual sessions to be, 1 hour. Like NAR Cert will be on Thursdays from 6 to 7 for 8 weeks. And the reason for that is because, teachers are working all day, people are working all day, they're doing various other things. I don't want to tie up a lot of their time, but I do want to give them an opportunity to jump on and say, hey, I got a question. How does this glue work? Or how does this work, right? So that's the whole plan. But for those people who are coming on and saying, I'm volunteering my time, I want to elevate the title a little bit. And that will go. So here's my idea. So the requirements to teach to become a NAR educator, okay? So you just start out with being a NAR educator. If you're 18 and older, you must be willing to volunteer and present at least 1 hour live virtual call hosted by NAR, right? So I've got a schedule that I'm gonna put together. You say, Robin, I want to teach this. I want to teach teachers how to arrange their class on a day when they're getting ready to teach rocketry. If you do that, then you are a NAR educator. Well, you can be elevated to a NAR ambassador if you come on and do 6 of those classes. So during the year, if you teach, 6 hours, 6 1-hour sessions, you're now a NAR Ed ambassador. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sounds
Yes.
good.
Okay, all right. And so it will be the same thing for juniors. So we could have NAR educator juniors, and that would be students between the ages of 14 to 17. So if Ethan comes on and he teaches the students about safety training, the safety officer training, that's 1 hour. He's now a NAR educator junior, okay? And then he can also be a NAR Ed ambassador junior, 14 to 17, with you teaching those 6 hours a year. And so just each year, what that does is it allows us to have people that are coming in teaching quality things to the teachers. We've got sessions that are going on, constantly rotating. We're building up our library of content material that teachers can kind of go back and sneak a peek at. And they're only 1 hour long, where you can really get some good information. Okay. And so other things may come from the ambassador. So once we get these companies in that are donating, these sponsors, they may donate a rocket, or they may donate a high power rocket to the ambassador, or they may do this or that. So it's growing. It's just an idea that I came up with. NASA has solar system ambassadors, and I ran into a peer ambassador when I was at Myrtle Beach. So I said, you know what? I like the idea of having a NAR education ambassador, someone who really, really represents NAR well, and you would get your certificate and be good to go, right? So you guys think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Excellent. And then the session requirements. So in order to present, like if you come up with your own session, you need to have something that is hands-on or some type of video component, not just a talking head like I'm doing right now. So you want to have something that teachers can look at, do, put together, watch, something like that within that hour. It has to be energetic and upbeat, no longer than 1.5 hours during the week or 3 hours on the weekend, right? So if you're putting together these classes, you know, Monday afternoon is not the day to go 3 hours, you know, after you've gotten off of a long day of work. It's just not the day for that, okay? And then it must come with an agenda and for certificate and the continuing education units that teachers can get. So you can take your certificate back to your school district, hopefully, and be able to say, I participated in this professional development. Can I get the credits for this? Or they can take it to their district beforehand and say, this is what I'm participating in. Will it count towards my certificate renewal? Okay, because I know teachers are concerned about that. And you don't want to just be wasting your time. Well, not wasting your time, because I don't think that quality professional developments are ever a waste of time. But if you can get credit for being in this awesome professional development, why not, right? So, and then you want to allow Q&A in this session. So that's kind of some of the session requirements. And this will be inside of the minutes that I type up and send out to you guys, so you can kind of see more about what I'm thinking. And if you have any questions, you can ask those questions at that time. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I've got a little comment on that.
Okay.
If you could write up a description of sort of like how, sort of what you were talking about, and that this is part of NAR, and this is actually an international organization, and it's aerospace related. If we could get sort of pre-approval from districts, it becomes a selling point, because what ends up happening is, for example, I've taken 5 classes on the use of ChatGPT and AI large language models.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't fill in the form beforehand and they didn't approve it, they may not like ever look at it, but I wanted to do it, so I did it. You know, whether they accept it or not, I don't care to be able to do it. But if
Right.
you're looking at this for some kind of certification, if there was a way to go and somehow on the web page say, by the way, in these states, these districts have already accepted it, so you're kind of a shoe-in, and here's the little code, or here's the contact you want to do in your district to say, you know, we recognize it. And maybe that even could be done at the, you know, or checked at the state level. You know, if the state accepted it, the districts might fall in. So that might be an easier thing. That would be a ton of research and a ton of connection with, you know, each state's education department. But if we had it and said we did it, that might provide a foundation to say, you know, you don't have to ask the question, we did, they said yes, climb aboard.
Right. And vice versa. If we don't have your district approved yet, here's
Right.
a
And you see,
form, here's the write-up. You take it to your district. If you get approved, let us know. We'll add it to our website. You know, kind
right,
of
and
both ways.
right. And if you have a list of like, well, these districts in South Carolina are accepting it, why aren't you, or something,
Right.
you know,
Right.
maybe a momentum could be built here.
I like that. I like that, because we definitely need the momentum. That is important. Moving forward, that's definitely important. I like that idea. I got you. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? No? All right, let's jump in. Let's keep on moving here. So again, this is kind of our goals for February, March, and April. I'm going to continue working on this NAR Ed Educator to NAR Ed Ambassador outline letter. The next thing is we want to put a firm virtual sessions on the calendar for the remainder of the year. So I've been working on some outlines about sessions that I want to happen. And then, of course, the other teachers that have said they want to come on, or the educators, the NAR educators that want to come on and teach, they will be put on a calendar so that we can then put that calendar on the website. So people can say, oh, this is going to be happening in April, or this is going to be happening in May or October or whatever. Okay, so that's kind of my goal. That's my goal. I'm still learning how all of this works, and you know, Todd's schedule is busy. He has a lot going on, and so I'm working on that. Okay. We want to create a high-power teacher certification. And I was thinking, because we did have NART Cert, and we were kind of doing a spin-off of NART Cert. So for NART Cert, you have to have build and fly a rocket, take your test, and then you also have to complete a lesson plan. Well, we were saying if you're already level 1 certified, you really don't have to build and launch a small rocket, because we already know that you can build rockets and launch them. So we were saying, if you have your level 1 certification, really this step is already done. So what I think what I want to do, I'm still just thinking about that for a second, because I don't know that I want to necessarily continue switching NART Cert up. I want NART Cert to kind of be what NART Cert is, but I also want teachers who are high power certified to have their own thing. But the high power certification already kind of has its own thing. So if you're level 1, you build your high power rocket, you go out there and launch it. That's level 1. Level 2, you build your high power rocket, you take your test. That's level 2. Level 3, you write it up, submit it, build your rocket, and then you get certified. So I'm just trying to figure out, you know, maybe I don't know that we have to have, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure that one out. Anybody has any ideas about that one?
Yeah, one of the things you'd mentioned earlier is that for a high-powered teacher certification, it would be getting a certain number of students high-powered certified. So basically,
we did talk about that.
right, it's basically about kind of communicating across to be able to, you know, bring the high-powered to the students. So while the teacher may be high-powered certified, can they get students high-powered certified?
Okay.
So I think that would be the recognition, is that, you know, because of you helped bring in, you know, 6 or 12 or whatever students that are now high-powered certified. So you're growing the high-powered side of things.
I like that. And I do remember talking about that. So I guess we would need a name for it. We would need a name for that program. Oh, and Dr. C, by the way, you are, I did put you on the NART Cert high power
Yeah.
committee position there. So
I
there you go.
remembered
So
you talking that. And as a matter of fact, I'm trying to work on a design to
okay.
allow this to go a little bit easier, a little bit faster, and less expensive.
All right, that sounds good. I know you are, and you've been doing a great job with that, because you've gotten, what, 5 students?
I've got 6 students now.
6 students now.
Yeah, I've got
high power certified. Okay. And so
right.
that's really great. You've got that experience in there. And that's one of the virtual sessions that I would like to see as well, is how do you do this? How do you even get students interested in this? You know, so for that high power teacher certification, we would need a name for it. We would need an outline for it. And then do we still allow the high power teacher to do NART Cert, or do we still continue to just waive the, you know, the building of the rocket? Do they still need to do a lesson plan and a, you know?
Well, sure. I think the
Those.
lesson plan is part of the education process.
It is.
So I would say they would do that. And I would also say that taking the exam, if you're level 1, you don't have to actually take an exam, but for NAR Cert, you do have to take an exam. It's kind of interesting. If you're a junior high-powered level 1, you have to take an exam.
You do.
But if you turned 18, you don't have to take an exam until you get to level 2. So
Right.
I would say they would still have to take the exam portion. If they're high-powered level 1 certified, they should still have to take the exam portion of NAR Cert, you know, to be
Okay.
able to do that. And they should still have to produce lesson plans
Gotcha.
to be able
Okay.
and do that.
Okay, so a teacher who wants to do the high power certification in NAR Cert, even though they're level 1, you're still gonna write your lesson plan. You're still going to take your test. The only thing that you're exempt from is your rocket launch.
Right.
Basically.
You've done that. You're
right.
documented that you've launched rockets.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I wanted you guys to help, you know, clarify on tonight. Because NAR Cert is awesome. It's an awesome program. I just wanted to make sure that level 1 teachers, you know, are really getting out of it what they want to get out of it. All right, that sounds good. So we're going to continue advertising to get more teachers in the professional development sessions. We're going to continue advertising to find an assistant for Roy. And then we're going to outline a rough draft of the student programs with volunteer hours. He's going to work on that for us. And then, of course, our committee positions are listed here at me doing the live teacher trainings, Roy with the newsletter. Shawnette is doing NAR Cert, low and middle power. And then Dr. C is doing NAR Cert high power, which we're not going to call it NAR Cert. We're going to come up with another name for it because that'll kind of be a new thing there. And then Ethan's with the student programs. Does that sound good? Everybody's good? So everybody kind of knows what you're working on for the next go round. We got a lot. Our basket is full. But I think that we're doing good work and kind of just pushing some new things out there for teachers, live sessions. My biggest thing is that I want teachers to have somebody to reach out to. I can get on this call and I can say, hey, I got a question about this, or let me text Robin, let me call Shawnette. I don't know, you know, what's going on here or what happened, but so that's my biggest thing. All hearts and minds are clear?
Sounds good. And this is recorded, so you'll share a link so that we can get access to this?
I will.
Okay,
I
okay,
will.
great.
I definitely will. And I will send out the minutes for it probably in the next few days. Okay. So our next meeting is April the 22nd at 6 o'clock via Zoom. And then I think we're good to go with 6 minutes to spare. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for coming. If you have any questions, you know where to find me.
All righty. Thank y'all.
All right, have
Bye-bye.
a good one.
Bye.
Good night.